bit scary for a while.
What about damage to property? Have you had any?
Just so far, the pool's, the screen has started to come in. We've lost a it's exactly 5 miles south of where we are now. So they're definitely in the eye of the storm currently, I would guess. We live in a wood frame house, and that's a little bit more intimidating to be in. So we came to a little bit of a safer place for a while.
And I'm guessing you're really glad you did. Do you have your family with you?
I do.
So
I actually have my in-laws with me now. My family
is... It does provide some calming comfort, and I think this is more of a mental trial for me than a physical one.
That is a terrific point, and that has just triggered an idea in my head that I think I should try to explain to everybody, because as this eye wall moves through, a little layer of aluminum that's porous with holes has either been bent or pushed in completely into the roof. If and when you hear that sound of metal crinkling or vibrating, I don't want you to think that your roof is coming off. This is a totally different sound that is probably going to be experienced by many of us. It's the sound of the air rushing in to those little holes in that thin sheet of aluminum at such a velocity that it'll be strong enough to displace that aluminum after it lets it vibrate for a while. So get used to these groanings and vibrations and awkward sounds that are going to occur. I don't want you to jump to the conclusion that, oh my gosh,
we just had the eye go past us here in Naples a few minutes ago. She is now battering parts north. Chad Myers has been doing his expert job of tracking this storm. Chad, and just so you know, for an update from here, I know that technically, we're still in that glow period of having the eye pass over before we deal with the backside and the concern of the redistribution of energy and the storm surge coming. But it does look to me like water is starting to creep up. Am I just misunderstanding the abatement of the flash flooding that was going on here?
Yeah,
or could this be any of that? Or no, it hasn't started yet?
No, I don't think it started yet. Plus, I just got a tweet from Frank Carabassis, and thank you, Frank. He says the standing water that where you are standing, Chris, is 11.88 feet. And I hope, Frank, that you are correct, because that means that that's about as far as the water should come right there to that intersection. But there's an awful lot of distance between that and the ocean as well. So if we're still a 10 to 15-foot surge, that could be covered in 5 feet, plus the wind that's going to come with it, Chris. So I'm still glad you're off of that street, and I'm glad everyone else that I can see down there is also gone, because this is going to be an interesting thing to watch. It truly is. I don't think anybody has ever seen the backside of an eye broadcast live on television and seen a storm surge like this. We'll just have to see how far it goes, because if you are 3, 4, 5 feet above sea level, it's going to devastate your home. And let's hope you're out of there right now, Chris.
Well, let's hope that people are out. And the word from Naples, from the mayor and the city manager, was that they did believe that they actually had better than expected evacuations here. And let's also hope that it is more visually arresting than it is damaging, whatever there is to come. Now, let's check in with Drew Griffin, because as Chad rightly points out, yes, we're dealing with the worst part of that wind and stuff is gone here, but it ain't gone. It's starting to punish the people north of us. Drew Griffin is next in line. Drew, what's the situation where you are? How are the people holding up in anticipation of what's to come?
You know, there's no more anticipation. It is here, Chris. We've retreated to the safety of this wall, but I'm going to have George Albright just turn around and you can see why we retreated. The winds, this is really close to the Southwest Florida Fort Myers Airport, so whatever winds they're clocking there, we're probably clocking here. And it is just battering right now with the wind that is coming. Get a sense of that. Straight out of that front curve of the hurricane. This is not the backside. We're anticipating the wall will arrive and that calm will come. But right now, this part of Florida is still getting hammered by the very front leading edge of Hurricane Irma. And I think you can, I don't know if you can see, Chris, or not, but the wind is just incredible at this point.
I mean, I can't see it where you are, Drew, but Ed Lavandera and I sure as heck saw it where we are, and it is odd. It does seem as though it's getting shot through a fire hose at you. It really kind of weaponizes the water. this wind, and I think that was part of the concern from Chad Myers and the meteorological community about what this storm was capable of, especially when you combine that with the duration. So that's what Chad would relay to you, Drew, is that the problem isn't just the intensity, it's the time. It's going to last for a while.
Yeah, it's little. You can see it buffering the cars up and down, and that's why the car horns keep going off. The car alarms go off. We anticipate these trees. Many of them will fall. We've seen debris. We've seen gutters flying by. We have not seen, thankfully, roof tiles, which are extremely dangerous. But like I said, myself and the crew, we've had to just kind of retreat to the sanctity of this big, beautiful wall that we'll probably kiss at the end of this thing. But we're going to stay out of harm's way for now, and we'll just let you look at the wind from this vantage point. Chris?
God forbid. Stay safe. I'll check back with you in a little bit. Please tell the control room if I need to come back to you sooner, and we'll get right to you. Right now, I want to go to Bill Weir. He beautifully chronicled the decision-making process of a unique subculture down here known as the Conks, the people of the Keys. He was in Key Largo as Hurricane Irma made landfall down there. He is now driving north to survey damage as part of the next phase of recovery from this storm once she finally makes her way through the whole state and then to parts north. Bill, if you can hear us, what are you seeing?
Hey, Chris. Yeah, so we are on the Overseas Highway, US 1. We went south out of Key Largo. You can see some tree damage here. This is the main theme, is we're seeing so many fallen trees and billboards. We're seeing boats and jet skis in the middle of the road. We drove down actually to check out the Snake Creek Bridge. We'd heard from one local. Why don't we go down here and see what's going on? We'd heard from one local that the bridge had gone out. It's the one drawbridge in this chain of islands. And if those rumors were true, it would have been devastating for the people of the Keys, because they would have cut them off from the mainland and made life so much harder. So this is the Atlantic side here. That is unpassable. I don't think we can get down there. But it looks like there's a boat or an awning that's blown up onto the road. So bear with me. I'm going to turn us around and get back out on US 1. So we went down to check out that bridge, and around mile marker 88 or so, 87. And the good news is it's passable. We drove over it, and that's a huge sigh of relief. Now we have to conserve gasoline. Unfortunately, this is our power source that we're driving right now, and we only have so much gas to keep us powered up and keep us on the air tonight and tomorrow. Hopefully, we're going to get refueled, so we can't go all the way down to the 7 Mile Bridge, which would be the next one that people are worried about, and down in the lower Keys. But if the Snake Creek is good, that bodes well for folks, and I haven't heard any reports lately that it's been taken out. But now, so we're driving the wrong way. I don't recommend this if you ever come vacationing in the Keys. We're driving the wrong way on US 1. We're headed back north here because there's a big debris field I wanted to show you. The one interesting thing we've been seeing is, and now, of course, this is a good time to remind people that this is the worst time to come out and check your property and poke around, and you know, I'm here so you don't have to be, because we've driven over a few live power lines. There's still enough of a stiff wind now and then. I could pick up a sign or a palm frond and turn it into a projectile. This is well, I tell you, hurricanes and tornadoes really hate trailer parks. This is the Driftwood Trailer Park on the Atlantic side. You can see just a little sample of the damage there through the trees as the wind kicks up. Rod, our sturdy cameraman, keeping it out the window. Hey, Bill. For me, I'm just prattling on as I drive.
You're not prattling. Listen, my friend, there are few storytellers as gifted as you are. I could listen to you all day. But our crane here just swung around. The crane is like a massive weather vane. Luckily, it's not one of those high-rise cranes like they had to worry about in Miami, and some of them failed, or at least a couple did. This one is now pointing in a different direction, which means Chad Myers was once again right, and we're starting to get the wind to pick up here. Before I lose you, Bill, real quickly, you didn't hear any really sobering news out of the Keys yet, did you? While you were down there, did you hear anything about people who didn't make it or absolute catastrophic conditions that they need to get first responders to right away? Any word yet? Thank God.
I haven't heard any of that. I mean, I really.
We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't. I heard that one man died in Marathon shelter of natural causes, which was, you know, horrible for his family and all involved there. But nothing urgent that I've heard of. That doesn't mean they're not folks down here need help. But we have seen first responders out. I've seen, we saw Plantation Key Fire Department. We saw some ambulances and going on and on. I don't know if you can see this damage in front of me here. But the stone houses that I can say, this is a pretty general statement, but the post-Andrew strong structures on stilts, I think those homeowners are going to be pretty relieved. I mean, there's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of downed trees, a lot of firewood. Unfortunately, not that you need it down here in the tropics, but, you know, mostly looks like boat damage, stuff that was just loose. Left around. Can I get by him over there? Around? Got a little room on that side. Let's see what we can look at over here.
That car got moved.
Yeah, that car got. And so this is all the result, I think, of storm surge. Look at that. I mean, that is the waves. We were hearing
Bill,
reports Go ahead, Chris. Take it away, bud.
All right, Bill, you keep driving around, and please let me know when to come back to you, and I will, I promise. Thank you for taking us through this early stage of seeing what this storm has wrought, but unfortunately for too many, it's not over. So let's get to Miguel Marquez. He's in Punta Gorda, and he has been chronicling what's happening up there. Take us through it, Miguel.
Yeah, Chris, we're about 60 miles north of where you are, and this is an absolutely incredible force of nature fact. This is a marina, and all the water you see here is just fresh water pouring in from the storm itself. There is almost zero seawater in this marina. This thing, the water is still just rushing out to sea. They are expecting a storm surge in this area of 5 to 8 feet. They believe there's going to be about 3 feet of water that's about up to here on land in many parts of Charlotte County here. It is unbelievable how hard it is coming at us right now. This is what you guys were experiencing a while ago. They're expecting hurricane force winds about 8 p.m. locally here. Everything seems to be holding tight and people seem to be doing all right, but you can tell that the winds, we were at 40, 45 miles an hour earlier. They're probably up around 60 sustained right now because you can feel the sting of the water as it comes across, not just on your skin, but through the coat as well. So the wind really blowing here in Punta Gorda. They are well aware of the dangers here. They had Hurricane Charlie come through here 13 years ago and nearly wiped this town off the map. They're reborn and they've rebuilt since then, so they don't want to see this again. But I'll tell you, people who live here, they've never seen this. There were some folks who were coming down here just to check things out. They've never seen that lived through Charlie. This didn't even happen during Charlie. They said it happened. Charlie was such a small storm and it happened so fast. It was here and gone. Irma is just growing and growing and growing. All the water is out. When we get on that other side of the eye wall and the storm changes directions here, it is just going to be intense. And that's the big thing they're concerned about now is when that storm surge comes. Chris?
All right, Miguel, thank you very much. Please stay safe. As Chad has been warning us, you get this eerie feeling that something is over with this Hurricane Irma, and it isn't. It's just one of the properties of the process, that it goes in one direction and then the force redistributes and it comes back the other way. And Punta Gorda, Naples, Tampa, these are places that are uniquely vulnerable to storm surge. And Chad, that's why you've been tracking it so doggedly for so long. Once you saw its origination in the Atlantic, is that once you started to get became increasingly worried about what, you know, a storm this size that could generate storm surge, what it could do to areas like this.
Well, we saw what happened to Barbuda, and we saw what happened to the BVI and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and we knew that this was the biggest storm America may ever have to encounter. What happened overnight was a godsend, and it was a blessing for America and not so much for Cuba, because the storm ran over the northern coast of Cuba, losing significant intensity in the process, but also damaging that country significantly on the north side. As the storm exited Cuba overnight and this morning, it did not have an eye wall that could recover and become a stronger storm. It never did get back anywhere near that Category 5, and there's no such thing, but at 185, you make your own category, because that's 185 is 28 miles per hour over the threshold for a Category 5. There's no such thing as a Category 6. I get it. You make it up. Anyway, so this storm had so much power with it as the entire time, and it didn't hit too many things out there, but when it did, it just created devastation. And, you know, there was loss of life, there was loss of economy, there was a lot of things going on out there in the middle of the Caribbean and through the Leeward Islands, and then finally toward the United States. And without that brush with Cuba overnight, this would be a completely different story, and where you're standing right there, the top floors of those buildings would be gone. It's that serious. From 130 to 160 is that much difference, because you take the power of the wind speed itself, and you multiply it by itself. It's the square of itself to make wind load. And 130 is not 160, even though it only seems like 30 miles per hour. It's a whole different animal and a whole different set of circumstances. What you saw was a category EF2, maybe small EF3 that lasted a long time. And I think, Chris, I truly believe where you were is a microcosm. I believe it's probably even a microclimate that, yes, you had winds, but the buildings that you were in were so good and so strong that when you get away from there and you get into the areas that may be manufactured homes or prefab homes or even into the mobile home communities, you're going to see a whole different level of damage.
Well, as soon as we can, we'll get out there and we will see for ourselves, and we'll help the first responders assess the situation and deal with the people as they need it. The weather vane, which is actually a big crane, is shifting again, so we're starting to get another phase of the winds here. The President of the United States has just signed a disaster declaration for the state of Florida. Now, that's not just an official recognition that there was a storm. Obviously, the federal government and the White House are well aware of that, but it is about releasing funds. It's about timing of help, and that will be a boost. The governor wanted that. He wanted early action here, Governor Scott, and he has gotten it. Let's take a break here. When we come back, Irma has come through here, and she's done damage. The storm continues in parts north, and we are leading up to what happens in Tampa Bay. That place is so vulnerable to a storm, and yet we still haven't seen the surge yet. The back part of the storm is on its way. We'll check back right after this break.
See somewhere it has been retired, so we feel a little bit better about that. But I tell you, not the place I'd choose to weather it out, but each their own.
Jeff, unless the storm makes a turn, we think that the storm is going to move inland of you. We think that the eye of this storm is going to pass over something like Lakeland and Lake Wales, which is due east of Tampa and St. Petersburg, which would put you guys on the dry side of the storm.
But then you get that spin on the back end of it, exactly, with that water pushing on the back end of it, right? So, and it's unknown what that's going to mean. Do we have any sense of what that's going to mean?
From my perspective, I think what it means is this eye will have been over the land for long enough to where it will have lost some of its punch.
I got you.
That is not to say it's not dangerous for people there. It definitely is.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, we will see. Jeff Flock, who's been moving up and down the coast for us all afternoon. It's hard to imagine.
Your roof should be intact.
So when we started...
But you're going to hear those sounds, and it's going to be part of this experience of going through wind of 100 to 130 miles per hour of gusts. And it's going to create dynamic changes in the way air flows into and out of your house and around the roof. All right, Judd, good insight. Really is. That triggered a couple of thoughts there that I think will help some folks out, because you're not the only one who's going to hear those kind of haunted house sounds, and it's very scary when this is occurring.
All right, thanks, Jim.
You bet. All right, stay in touch.
All right, thank you. Will do.
That's Judd Krebs, former reporter at Wink News. He is in Estero, and he's just getting this little band right here, right there. I'm sorry, radio folks. I just have to point this out to the viewers. That's not the eye wall. The eye wall's coming, Judd. Everybody else in Estero, then San Carlos Park, then South Fort Myers. I said we're in the second inning of this game because this has to move through Lee, Charlotte,
all lined
Soto,
up here in the median,
Sarasota,
since this is the
and
highest point of the street. Clearly, they left their neighborhoods from both sides, realizing, well, we better get our cars out now. It's dry in the middle of 79th Street, so they parked them here, and they're all just parked. Look at all the debris in the street. There's a black shoe. You got a black sneaker over here. I mean, the whole street's riddled with debris. Rooftops are ripped. Somebody's black shoe right there. So this is not the only street like this. Many, many streets throughout Miami-Dade County are this way. That's why there's a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew again tonight. Also, traffic signals are no power, not operating. So it's very dangerous, especially once the sun sets. That's why there's a mandatory curfew. Nobody needs to be on the streets. Now that actually we seem to be very close to the tail end of what has been a miserable and dreary 30-plus hours of pounding rains and winds, we've actually seen an increase in traffic coming out here just to start looking around, as everyone does after a hurricane passes through, get that cabin fever and go out and let's see what the damage is. And up and down the street, there's certainly plenty. Flooded streets down in Brickell, more stranded cars down there. Brickell, downtown, hot, happening, hip neighborhood. A lot of new condo towers down there, a lot of young people moving down there. That was one of the first neighborhoods that was ordered to mandatory evacuate. A lot of people did evacuate, I've got to say, out of the city of Miami, out of the county, and especially Miami Beach. Not everybody did, because not everybody always does. As of yesterday, they thought they made the right choice as the eye of the storm had shifted from the East Coast to the West Coast. But as we saw today, punishing upper tropical storm strength, lower category 1 hurricane strength winds and rains just beat down this area all day long, Shep.
Phil Keating on the right there on the 79th Street Causeway in Miami, where the cars are out and the lights are on. Some rain totals have started to come in for us. Really totally different scenes across the region. Hollywood, Florida, which is Dade, Broward line, Hollywood, Fort Lauderdale International Airport is in that area. At Hollywood, Florida, 4.68 inches of rain. Jupiter, also on the East Coast and a little farther north, 7.73 inches of rain. Fort Lauderdale's Executive Airport, 8.8 inches. The National Deer Key, which is down in the lower Keys, very near where just to the east, I guess, of where the eye went across, 11.5 inches of rain. In Naples, officially, close to 12 inches of rain. In Melbourne, Florida, on the East Coast, 14.5 inches of rain, and now a live drive-along the streets of Miami. Let's go to Dave Bayer, who's the police chief at Marco Island. Chief, have you been able to get out and about? Do you know what kind of damage was dealt you?
First off, I'm a captain, not the chief.
Oh, apologies.
That's okay. I just want to make sure I'm not taking undue credit. Thanks for talking to me. We're currently experiencing the back eye, the back eye wall, the storm on the backside, and we're seeing significant damage. I'm looking out the window of the image. I'm looking out the window of the station, and there are
area, but of course things will likely start to pick up and continue to get worse.
Begin to start to blow. This is now the backside of the eye, and this is where we expect the surge to be. I also expect the surge to have blown significant water into the Everglades. and that's good news and bad news. That may reduce the amount of surge for Naples because of the way it slid slightly farther to the east. Now, earlier in the day, the eye was forecast to be somewhere over here, and that would have put the surge back in here a little bit more. But because the eye honestly went right over you, the surge may be closer toward Orange Tree and even into Everglades City. We'll have to see. This is not an exact science. Surge is very critical to reducing the number of deaths, and that's why the Hurricane Center was so to the wall on this. In fact, calling us directly saying the most important thing we want you to ever tell anybody is if you have this surge 5 to 10 feet, that they have to leave. And we know that they did. At least we hope that they did. And right now we're waiting for that surge to come. I hope it doesn't get here. I hope it's in the Everglades, but it's somewhere. Chris?
All right, Chad. Well, we've seen the crane weather vane spin around. The wind is coming in almost the exact opposite direction that it was before. It's starting to pivot a little bit more back towards us. So we'll watch and we'll wait here, Chad. I'll check back with you about us. But right now, let's get to Ryan Young, because this is about the backside of the storm, but there's still so many in harm's way for the front side of Hurricane Irma. Ryan Young is in St. Petersburg. What are you seeing there, my friend?
Well, you know what? The wind is really picking up here, Chris. We spent the entire day not only traveling from Tampa to Clearwater to St. Petersburg now. I can tell you, look, you can see the wind and the fact that it's picked up steadily since earlier this afternoon. We were told by police officers here, as soon as it reached about 40 miles per hour, they were going to get off the road. One of the things that we can't report is because we saw people who were kind of taking to the roads every now and then throughout the hour, kind of just looking around to see if conditions were getting worse. The good news is right now the roadways are clear. We were actually standing in a creek bed earlier where we saw the water sort of leave the Bay Area, but people were expecting to see that water come back, and that's what they're worried about. Residents say they're constantly worried about flooding. This event, they expect more water to come in. When you talk to the longtime residents who live here, they say, look, they never expected something very powerful to come through here, and they were kind of banking on it. We even saw people who were taking large pieces of wood and still trying to get it up on the windows just this afternoon. And as you know, my friend, the wind kind of picks up every now and then, just hits you right in the face. But you understand that. The good news is, so far, talking to emergency management officials, they said nothing significant to report so far. But watching power lines and some of these signs around here, we have seen some of the signs pop off. Some of these installations, even the one next door, just ripped off about a half hour ago. So you can get an idea of how the wind gusts keep coming and going. But so far, so good as we deal with the backside of this storm, Chris.
Okay. All right, Ryan. Thank you very much for the report. Lucky you got those young legs to deal with the wind that's coming your way. Right now, let's check with Dory Gregg in the Brickell area of Miami. Can you hear me?
Me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you tell us how is it where you are right now?
It's still really windy. Brickell is still flooded. Our windows are still shaking. The building's still swaying. Not as bad as it was.
And how are you faring? How are you feeling about everything? Are you okay? Or do you feel that you're safe now? Do you have people around you who can help you?
No, I think we're very safe. We're in a strong building. We've maintained all of our power, except we've lost the air conditioning now. We've got some water coming in through the sliding glass door. But, I think, all in all, we're good. The first floor of our building has flooded. But, there are 5 of us here in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I think we're okay.
I heard you said that you lost your air conditioning. Does that mean that you lost all power? Do you have any at all?
No, the generator came on, so we do have some lights. But that's about it, just the backup power.
Okay. I'm having a little trouble hearing you, but I am still listening to you. So let me ask ask you something else. Because this is going to be about duration as much as it is about intensity, how are you fixed for provisions and stuff if you have to go a day or so before, things can really start to return to normal?
Oh, there are 5 of us, like I said, in the apartment. I think we're fixed for a day or two. I don't think we're going to, maybe even a little bit longer, but certainly not something like 5 days or a week or anything. But I think for the next couple of days, we're good.
All right, good. That's good to hear. And also, a lot of this, once you make it through that immediate phase of urgency, is going to be about having people that you can come together with and make a go of it. So that's good. And I'm happy that the worst of it has moved through and left you relatively okay. I'm sorry if you're having trouble hearing me. The backside of this storm is now trying to make her impression on us here in Naples.
So we're out of the thick
I'm going to let you go, and I appreciate you checking in with us. We will check.
Anything.
Say it again, please.
I'm sorry. So we're out of basically the thick of it. It's moved on past us because we've been basically cut off.
Oh, okay. So let me tell you what I'm hearing from my meteorologist, Chad Myers. So the storm has certainly moved past. It is an unusually big storm. So there are more bands of weather than we might see ordinarily. The eye is certainly past. But, that's only one component of what to worry about. You still have to think about those outer bands and any residual storm surge. Where you are down there in the Brickell area of Miami, you certainly should have seen the worst of it, of this storm. So now it'll be about storm surge, residual flooding, and how quickly the municipality, the government can get power back.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
So rest easy on that level, and you have our number, so you can check back with us, and we'll tell you what we're learning about the situation as we do. Okay?
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and that's a good point we just heard from that nice lady, which is a lot of people are cut off, so they haven't been watching the coverage. And very often, as it is in natural disaster type situations and major storms, the closer you are to the actual experience, the less you know about that experience because you're not getting any media, you're not getting any information. All right, so as Chad Myers predicted, the backside of this storm is coming into effect now. The gusts have picked up significantly. They're just coming from the opposite direction. So we're going to start watching for that storm surge. We're about 3/4 of a mile away from the Gulf here. And we are at about sea level to 5 feet above sea level. And as Chad was saying, that's just not enough for the storm surge to be fought back by elevation. So we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we'll continue our coverage of Hurricane Irma. She's still putting her eye on parts north on the western coast of Florida. And now the storm surge is going to start hitting the parts like Naples. We'll be right back.
Here with those. Yeah, that's right, guys. Like you said, I've been scrolling through Twitter, and as Irma moves its way up Florida, some pretty incredible footage is surfacing on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, the like. Starting off with this one that has been popped up earlier today. A meteorologist out chasing storms in Key West gets out of his car to measure wind speeds, and I don't even know if he needs whatever tool he's got with him, because as you can see, the wind is so powerful, it's almost knocking him over. It's almost a leg and a core workout just to stand up. That's how dangerous some of these 100+ mile-an-hour winds are. And then let's go to the next one. More example of how strong these winds are. This one is in Miami. They're experiencing the outer bands of Irma since yesterday. Winds rip off the roof. This is out of West Brickell, a neighborhood there. Rips off the building of a roof. And now this one is in Fort Lauderdale. More example of how powerful these winds are. Check out the root, the base of the tree. You kind of see where this is going. It looks like the ground is almost breathing. And just like that, the tree topples over. You see those the roots look like they're almost 10, 15 feet high. Thankfully, the tree did not land on anything but the fence. And finally, this is footage out of Tampa. What has happened here is Irma is so powerful that it has temporarily displaced part of the ocean. It's what's called negative storm surge. Irma has essentially sucked water out of the Tampa Bay into its core, and it looks like compelling footage right now, and it is. But as soon as Irma makes its way back to Tampa, it's going to force that water back into the bay. Guys? Yeah, in Tampa on high alert.
Just look at those palm trees. Listen to that wind.
And we are just getting whipped right now with it. The other problem, of course, this wind that is whipping us is somewhere along the coastline, 3 miles from me, bringing that surge and that water into where we did some of those earlier shots. This beach road, we'll see how far. It won't be 3 miles, but it'll certainly be blocks like it was in Wilma in 2005. When you talk to the locals, the first thing they tell you is, oh, I hope it doesn't flood like it did on Gulf Shore Drive in 2005. Well, my guess is, and I'm not going there anytime soon, my guess is when we take a look, when this blows over, it's going to be equally that bad. And it's also worth pointing out that back literally on this day in 1960, Hurricane Donna whipped this area and devastated, according to the locals here, devastated Naples, and they're taking a beating right now, Shep.
Griff Jenkins in Naples for us. Let's get down to Marco Island. Remember, the storm's eye passed over Marco Island a short time ago. Wayne Pluhoff.
At about 4:45 p.m., the power in our shelter officially went out. It's been flickering on and off for the last several hours, and it appears it's not coming back on now. So don't know how long we'll be without power. It might be quite a while. I'm going to take a look outside right now. The eye of the hurricane isn't quite to us yet. We are in Lee County. Door open. And you see these gusts of wind just keep getting stronger and stronger. I'm actually going to point out something right here. It appears the wind ripped this off of my neighbor's house that covers up their power here. And this palm frond fell about 5 minutes ago. You can see here this tree in our front yard, that has snapped. Here's another big gust of wind right now. It's definitely too dangerous for us to go in the street, so we're safely in this little corridor right here. But yeah, again, our power just went out probably for good. So we're gonna have to get creative on how to charge our electronics. Luckily, we have plenty of flashlights and a light for our camera. So that's the update here in Fort Myers. For now, I'll send it back to you guys.
So they're getting very close to getting the worst of it, and this is only a half hour ago, so you can see that. All right. On Marco, we've been wanting to show this just for a little levity in all of this. This is catfish swimming down the street on Treasure Cove in Marco Island. Unfortunately, he has plenty of water to keep swimming there.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not safe to go fishing yet because it's making it really easy.
Yeah, right.
We have some more street flooding. This is in the moorings west of 41 between Anchor and Harbor Drive.
This
person says in the eye at 5 o'clock.
On the west coast of the state, these areas on this west coast particularly vulnerable because of the track of this storm and because of their natural geography and their dimensions when it comes to water, sea level. We're only at about 5 feet above sea level. So it's very vulnerable to storm surge, and that unfortunately may be the component that's happening right now. As much as 10 feet is expected here. It could be coming all the way up to where we are. We're about 3/4 of a mile from the Gulf of Mexico and the marinas here. So this is the backside of the storm. The front side of the storm is even more powerful by a multiple, in fact. So let's get to Alex Marquardt. He's in Sarasota dealing with Hurricane Irma. What are you seeing?
Well, Chris, there is absolutely no mistaking the fact that Hurricane Irma is headed directly this way. In just the past hour, there has been a significant uptick in this rain that is just absolutely pelting us. The wind that is barreling down this street down here in central Sarasota. Now, we know that the winds are well above 45 miles an hour at this point. We were at a shelter earlier when they shut down. Once the winds did reach 45 miles an hour, as we have been reminding people, the emergency services, 911, will no longer respond to calls once the winds reach 45 miles an hour. You can see here behind me, it is absolutely a ghost town. The only vehicles that we have seen are firemen, ambulances, police cars. Those lights in the distance are still on. We still have power. Like many in southern Florida, we do expect to lose that in the coming hours. Chris, this is really an appetizer for the storm that is coming. In comparison to what you are seeing down there, we expect to see what you are experiencing around midnight our time. That's in almost 6 hours. But we will begin to experience hurricane force winds around 9 p.m. those winds will kick up to around 75 to 95 miles an hour, with gusts going up above 100 miles an hour. So Category 1, Category 2. Everyone here hunkered down. There are around 16,000 people in the shelters. Those who aren't are at home. They're preparing for things to get much, much worse in the hours to come. Chris?
Well, Alex, let me give you some advice, having gone through it already with Ed Lavandera here. Make sure that once you deal with the front side of the storm, position yourself so that you're still facing into the wind on the back side of the storm. We weren't able to do that because of where we are right now in Naples and where we are just situated within Naples, and getting it hitting you from behind as you're trying to tell people what's going on is a little bit more difficult to task. So be safe.
The communications are going in and out.
No.
So I'm going to have to toss it back to you.
Don't worry about it, Alex. Don't worry about it, Alex. I'll give you the advice. I'll send you an email just about how to deal with it when the storm comes from the backside. All right, so right now, if I can, I'd like to bring in Chad Myers if he's available. Is he?
Absolutely, Chris. What do you need, buddy?
All right, Chad. So we're dealing with the wind coming in the opposite direction now, right, as that big weather vane, the crane, is making very clear. But it's pretty intense, what we're dealing with right now. So why don't you take us through what you see on the map?
Even though there's not truly an eye wall on the bottom side of this, there's not big, severe thunderstorms on the back side of this storm where you are down here in Naples, there's still enough spin. There's still enough low pressure right at the center of this that you're going to have winds. And in fact, even today in Atlanta, our winds were 45 miles per hour, and we're hundreds of miles away. So if you're only 20 miles away, you're still going to get winds whether there's a significant severe weather event in the eye wall or not. So easily for you, as the backside comes through, 70 to 80 miles per hour with a gust to 90, even though we're almost in clear air back out here. So that will eventually push the water into your bay. And I want to give you an idea of what's happened to this water. Here's where we are now, up 5 feet. This is a 5-foot surge right at the tide gauge here in Naples. We were down 2.5 feet. So our surge so far is 7.5 feet from where we were, and we're still going up. I don't know where we stop, but Chris will keep watching it, because if we get water in Naples downtown, that's what we're expecting right there in downtown. That would be that 10-foot surge, because that intersection you're showing now is about 10 feet above sea level.
All right, I'm keeping eyes up the street for you, Chad, and I'll let you know as I start to see any movement there at all. We can't get any closer to there, and I'm not going to send anybody down there. So yes. Let's take a break right now, and when we come back, we will take you to where Irma is headed, and we'll check in back here in Naples with where she's already been, and in Miami as well.
Okay, let's take a look at this next video.
Let's look at Christopher Bravo, I believe, sent this video to us from Henley Court in Fort Myers, and you can see, look at the water all over the roadway. That is just heartbreaking to see all that rainwater and all that fresh water flooding already before they even are seeing anything post-hurricane. But there's a lot of wind in that area, too. And Christopher, thank you so much for sending that in to us and letting your neighbors know around Henley Court what it's like there.
And this, look at this. This is inside Gulf Harbor in South Fort Myers earlier this evening. And again, a lot of trees. It looks like trees swaying and trees down. I just want to read you, if I can find it really quickly here, something of somebody who lives in there told me. A tree fell on top of a condo at Gulf Harbor a little while ago. Okay, and I have a picture now. We'll try to get that together and get that on TV for you. But yeah, so there's definitely been a little bit of damage anyway in the Gulf Harbor neighborhood off of McGregor near Gladiolus.
We have some video from Sherry in Cape Coral showing a neighbor's fence being blown apart and part of an Australian pine that toppled over in Cape Coral.
We're going to head inland now to Clewiston, and we're so happy that Donald Stark sent us this first video we're seeing seeing from the Clewiston area is some video of some damage that has already occurred. Look at that roof tile being blown off, or the metal from that roof, and the trees down all over the street and in that neighborhood. So they are seeing very heavy winds and rain bands going through Clewiston as well today. And really for them, it is a big wind event. And you can see some of the damage they're already seeing as a result. Look at that tree down. You see the big root ball in the middle of their screen there. And so they're having a lot of trouble in Clewiston as well.
This is 6 Mile Cypress in Fort Myers, and obviously through someone's pool cage. But wow, look at those palm trees go. A lot of neighborhoods going through that right now, and a lot of people in that same situation with all those pool screens, very vulnerable pool screens and vulnerable aluminum cages underneath all those trees. There's going to be a lot of those scattered about in various different conditions by this time tomorrow.
One of our former producers, Laura Shea, who's on Mohawk in Cape Coral, is on the phone with us. And Laura, we have some video that you've sent to us as well that we're going to play so that you can hopefully talk us through it. First of all, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm okay. This is my first hurricane, and I'm not a native Floridian, so it's a little nerve-wracking. I've been okay up until about now. It's getting pretty windy. But other than that, pretty much smooth sailing. Our house is new, and it's concrete block, and we've got impact windows and roll-down screens. So we've actually been able to watch the storm as it changed as it came in. So it's been interesting, but still a little nerve-wracking.
You know, you prepared your house perfectly. You got the impact glass and the roll-down screens, so you're in the safest place you could be in terms of hurricane. You know, you've prepared and you're ready to go, Laura. So what about the weather you've seen outside? When did you start seeing bad weather, and how quickly has it deteriorated?
I woke up to rain about 6:30 this morning, and it really wasn't too windy. It was probably around lunchtime we started to really see the wind pick up. And I would say in the last couple hours, it's gotten pretty bad. We have some fences around our neighborhood that have kind of toppled over, like portions have toppled over. There's a boat that's in a lot across the street that they've lost their T-top. They've lost a canopy. We actually still have power right now, which I'm completely shocked. But, you know, I'm actually in our patio right now where the roll-down screens are.
All right, Chris Cuomo in Naples, Florida, along the western coast of the state. This is a area of particular concern because it's only 5-10 feet above sea level. And what we're dealing with right now is the backside of the storm. The eye passed over. There were gusts up to, I believe, 140 miles an hour. Chad Myers says that will stand up as some type of potential record. But while the wind gets the headlines, it's the water you have to worry about. It is drowning that causes the most death in a hurricane. Storm surge is directly related to that type of concern. So what we're dealing with now is this backside of the storm. Counterclockwise, the storms move. So the energy distributes on one side, now comes back on the other side. That's why the water was getting sucked out of the bayous and the bays up on this side of the state as the storm moved here. Now we're getting that wind back in, and with it will come that water.